Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuhu. Just want to touch on the topic of taking action to change your life, because our Imaan is our responsibility, and we all know the hadith that says, paraphrasing, if you come to me walking, I will come to you running. So we have to take the steps. And one of these steps, something that's changing my life, literally I could see the changes, it's one of the easiest things that we could possibly do. It's literally the click of a button, the unfollow button. How many times a day does our thumb hit the screen? Just over and over and over and scrolling. And if we can't be bothered to unfollow something that we know is not good for our Iman, or we know that is not Islamically sound, that's really saying something about us, and that's concerning. Nobody wants to admit that, this may be more important to me than Islam. But honestly, if you can't admit that there's a problem, then how can you even fix the problem if you refuse to acknowledge it? I had to admit, I had the hardest time for the longest time admitting that, I was trying to juggle making music and Islam. And then, it got to the point where it was eating me alive, just not to sound dramatic, but obviously it bothered me enough for me to quit it and stop trying to fool myself. So we have to acknowledge at some point that something that we can't give up for Islam, then that thing is more important to us than Islam. Sad to say, but like I said, if you refuse to acknowledge the problem, then you're not going to be able to fix the problem. And music, another thing that I'm doing to make daily changes is getting in the car on the way to work, instead of listening to music, listening to a lecture, or starting my day off, instead of with a song, starting it off with a lecture or a surah. This is making big changes. It changes my whole outlook of the day. And Ibn al-Qayyim rahimahullah said, music is the Quran of the shaitan. This is serious. And he said that music and the Quran cannot coexist in the heart. And I feel I'm not calling out everyone that listens to music, because I know that's a problem to so many Muslims, but I feel because I used to make music, and because that was my thing, that was the thing I was passionate about, so I kind of feel it's my responsibility now that I was able to give it up. And one of the reasons why I feel I was granted the ability to do so is because there's been plenty of times where I quit it, and then I went back to it, and then I quit it, and then I went back to it, but I never gave up completely. I never just said, well, I'm just going to make music, I'm just going to listen to music, and that's that. May Allah forgive me. I didn't keep it like that. I know that, while I'm alive, I have to struggle. It's my responsibility to struggle. So now I feel I can kind of speak on it as someone that used to make music, that comes from a musical background and stuff like that. If I'm able to do it, I know that other people are able to do it. I'm living proof. But we have to take those first steps. And don't think Allah's not going to leave you alone. That's thinking ill of Allah, that it's going to be that hard forever. Taking the first steps is tough. That's the hardest part, is making the changes. But once the changes are in place, it becomes easier to uphold, and Allah makes it easier for us to stay on the right path. There's a saying, people say it's easier to stay sober than to get sober. So it's easier to stay on the right path once you get on it, but the hardest part is making those changes. The hardest part of working out is starting to work out if you haven't in a long time. But once you get the ball rolling, it's easier. And Allah doesn't waste the efforts of the believers, so we have to think good about Allah. It's not as hard as I thought it was going to be. I thought it was going to be harder until now that I'm actually doing it, I'm it's not even bad. It's actually becoming easier. The more I feel, good about it, I feel revived. So inshallah, this helps somebody out there, and keep keep trying, keep striving, don't give up. And like always, until next time, fi aman Allah, ma'a salama.